The second type of bone formation comes through endochondral ossification. And this applies to all other bones other than the cranial bones and the clavicle. And endochondral, look at this word, chondral. That means cartilage. So in endochondral ossification, we're getting bone through or by the use of hyaline cartilage models. Hyaline. All right, so all of our other bones in the fetal skeleton are made up of hyaline cartilage. So if we have this, Lord, I can't get my colors correct. All right, so this is a bone, a long bone. Okay, so this is my bone and it's cartilage. Okay, so if it's cartilage, then that means the inside of this, it's hyaline cartilage. So we're going to have a bunch of lacunae, right? And little cells in this lacunae. All right, these are chondrocytes, right? So chondrocytes. And out here is cartilage, and it is the perichondrium. Okay. So when it's time, I'm going to write this in little steps here. So when it's time to differentiate, to form this bone from this hyaline cartilage model, which is happening in mama's belly, okay? So, and I don't remember the months or whatever. You have to look those up. I don't remember when it starts. Week 9 or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. But anyway, so we have mesenchymal cells that will differentiate into, hopefully you guessed it, osteoblasts. So these are mesenchymal cells along the periphery here. This is basically within the perichondrium, which is, the perichondrium itself is not cartilage, it's fibrous connective tissue, it's dense irregular connective tissue. So we have these osteoblasts that are in there, and they start to secrete matrix. Still, my colors are not doing what they want to do. So they're starting to secrete matrix, and when they do that, they create in here, they're secreting matrix, which is bone, and they create this thing called the bony collar. That's not how you spell collar, is it? Okay, so the bony collar. All right, maybe that is how to spell it. I don't know. Okay, so it forms this bony collar, and this bony collar is encircling the diaphysis here, the long part of this pre-bone. So once the bony collar is there, that bony collar, I mean, think about what it feels like. What it feel like to have a big collar wrapped around your neck, okay? This bony collar basically cuts off the blood supply. So the blood supply that the cartilage is getting from the perichondrium is now cut off. Perichondrium. Okay, that means there's no diffusion. There's nothing coming here, because normally nutrients would diffuse in here, and that's how the cartilage survives. But now it's cut off. Okay, so without nutrition, the chondrocytes there are going to start to die off. Start to die, and when they die, they kind of barf out. They kind of start to, poop concrete. Let's just call it that. Okay. And what happens here is the stuff that's coming out here now is calcified cartilage. So all the kind of the lacunae are kind of getting bigger. They're kind of swelling up, and they're pooping concrete, and all this becomes calcified cartilage. It's not bone, and it doesn't turn into bone. So what happens? We've got these cells dying off here, and no blood supply, and oh my gosh, what to do? So what happens is the nervous system basically alerts and basically sends something in, and it sends in a new blood supply via the periosteal bud. So it basically sends a vessel in here. Ba-bum. All right. And with that, it's carrying some cells. It's carrying osteoblast, and osteoclasts. These guys with all the nuclei. And the osteoclasts come in here and they start to chomp, 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 break down the bone. So the osteoclasts break down the calcified cartilage. And then the osteoblasts that are coming in there as well, start to secrete bone matrix. So osteoblasts secrete osteoid, which is bone matrix. So they secrete osteoid, and as they're in there, when those cells get in there, they form this primary, again, a primary ossification center right here at the bud. Okay, so this is occurring, the bone is being made, and it's actually the osteoclasts are also breaking down some of the new bone in order to form the cavity in here, because there is a marrow cavity in the long bone. Okay, so what's left is a cavity, spongy bone, and then at the periphery, compact bone, and then on the outside, periosteum. Okay, which is what's left of the perichondrium that becomes the periosteum. So this starts to occur on up the bone into the diaphyses. Okay, so basically the same thing happens. And what they get, they also get a little bud from a vessel. Okay, these create secondary ossification centers. So here's a secondary ossification center for this epiphysis, and here's a secondary ossification center for this epiphysis. Okay, same thing happens. We get osteoclasts in there that are going to break down this calcified cartilage from this dying chondrocytes, and then the depositing of osteoid from the osteoblasts. So what's left when you're born? Well, when you're born, then you have, oh, that's not a good color. There. You have compact bone on the periphery of the whole bone here, and then spongy bone in here, spongy bone in here. There's no cavity here. And then here we have spongy bone, or compact bone on the periphery, spongy bone on the, like right next to the compact bone, and then inside there'll be a marrow cavity. So that's what we have at the end. And what is left of the cartilage? Well, there's cartilage here. It stays on the ends of the long bones, because we all know this is the articular cartilage. So now we have articular cartilage on the ends, which of course is hyaline. That's what we had. And right here, there is also some hyaline cartilage left. Right there is where the growth plate is, also called the epiphyseal plate. Epiphyseal plate. So a growth plate on top, or on one end, and a growth plate on the other end that separates the epiphysis, both epiphyses and the diaphysis. Okay, and that is where growth will occur during adolescence, or during childhood all the way up through adolescence. Okay, so that is called, again, endochondral ossification. We're getting the bones from hyaline cartilage models. Okay, so please go through all these steps, and we'll talk about how bone grows.